So, what are the differences between Indian and American in the way they communicate and eat?
Well, in India, it's the heart of the conversation, it's the it's the central fact of existence. The first sound you hear in the morning is of people beginning to cook. And people's food memory is extremely precise. I hear people talking, they will remember a meal that my grandparents would remember how the eggplant was cooked at that wedding all those years ago. The rest of the world, they travel, they see nothing, they remember precisely what they ate. So everything is seen, through that. I mean, it's sort of the way in which the world is viewed, your life is viewed, family relationships are viewed. And in the States, of course, it's as an Indian immigrant, it's a completely different experience. People eat over the kitchen sink on their own. It seems like the loneliest, saddest thing in the world to me. Food tastes are, of course, completely different. As an immigrant, you begin to wonder. You go to a sandwich shop, and then all of a sudden you see the different sandwiches on the board. And I in my book, which I took out, but what does it mean to suddenly see the Mahatma Gandhi sandwich up on the board with mango chutney and a grilled chicken, and of course, after all, he barely ate it all. His entire life was about fasting and not eating. And so, and my book was so full of this sort of kind of discussion, I had to take a lot of it out. What does pasta mean? A salad, raw vegetables is something. I remember meeting a Chinese immigrant who said she never ate a raw vegetable in her life, and salad was a revelation. Pasta, why does it take so many different forms? In the end, doesn't it taste the same? I mean, this is a mysterious.
Except different cultural backgrounds, how much of an influence was your mother's work?
Enormous, I think, in so many different ways that it's hard for me to even see it clearly. I see the connection in our work, connections of, books of hers that I read that must have affected my work. I can see clear connections, in fact, between several of her books, and I realize how much I've learned from her. Also, of course, we've had the same family history, so sometimes it's hard to separate the effect of the book and the fact that we've lived in the same landscapes and met the same people and had the same family experiences. But perhaps most important was the fact that that rhythm of the writing life was not strange for me. It wasn't a habit that I had to fight to acquire. When I started writing, it felt like coming home in a way. The rhythm was so familiar. It was the rhythm of my childhood.
So writing was home.
Yes, and certainly in that way, it was not something that seemed foreign or strange. It's the only way I really know how to live.
You published it in the late 20s. Most people don't read books at that time, and yet you wrote a very successful one. What do you do when you don't write books?
Nothing much. This is always the embarrassing question, because I get it a lot, and people say, well, what do you do when you're not working? And really, as a writer, maybe other writers are different, but there's not much else. It's always like the saddest thing when you contemplate that fact, that they really, beyond that, I find that I try and work all through the day, work every day. The rest of the time I'm reading, and if I'm not reading, I'm trying. My existence is somewhat to the fact that I'm going to start working the next day. So even if I became very strange. I mean, it does do odd things to you. Certainly the writing life has an effect. I became extremely odd and introvert. 8 years of working in an isolated fashion. I was scared to pick up the phone. If the neighbors walked by outside, I would wait for them to pass before I went out myself. I didn't want to go out in the evenings because if I did, it would break my ability to work the next day. And sometimes I see that in other writers. I see that and I think, yeah, we are a tribe.
That seems so.
But it's certainly not a healthy. It's not a healthy life. I wouldn't recommend it.
Do you like to listen to music while you write?
I do. All kinds of really different things, and I think it helps. It certainly helps me. I suppose in a way it shows it unconsciously. Creates spaces. Creates a sort of space in which I can work. It's sort of an architecture of space and landscape and rhythm. That must affect me as it's playing in the background, and I listen to really different things. I listen to blues, or I listen to jazz, or I listen to Bach sometimes, or I listen to Sufi music. I listen to Indian music, Indian classical music a lot as well. So very, very different things.
They say movies get their best ideas from books. Have you seen any good movie with a good story that you liked?
I have to say, I'm really not much of a movie goer. Although as soon as I said that, I began to think of a book that I love called The Movie Goer by Walker Percy. I must be on the other side of it all. I think, movies get their rights from books. But of course, yes, it's always a play. Life. A movie resembles a book, books resembles a movie, life, art, life.
And in the end, what are your plans for the future?
And I want to go back to work. I think next step is I start writing another book this summer, I hope.
What is it going to be about?
It's always is a process of discovery for me. I never really know in advance. I sense a sort of emotional landscape, or there are a few little strands, a few settings, not much, but I really never know in advance.
What do you expect from Croatia?
Beauty.